Jean-David Levitte, welcome to the WPC TV. You are now a professor at Sciences Po in Paris. You're a member of the Brookings Institution in Washington, D.C., but I think you're best known as the former French ambassador to the United Nations and also the Sherpa to the French president. You've just given a very, very interesting presentation in a panel on the Middle East. And I'd like to ask you about Iran. Is an Iranian nuclear weapon inevitable? And if it's not inevitable, how can the move towards it be stopped?
Well, 2013 will be the year for action, decision. Otherwise, we will have a nuclear Iran. And my hope is that there will be renewed negotiations. Certainly the sanctions are working, but at the same time, time is running out. And so there is need, now that President Obama has been brilliantly re-elected, to renewed diplomatic efforts. And I do think that if the whole international community, that is the P5+1, and other countries like Turkey, India, Brazil could join their efforts, maybe there is a chance to reach a diplomatic settlement. Frankly, I'm not too optimistic. My fear is that Iran wants the bomb like North Korea as a shield to protect the regime. But at the same time, the sanctions are really, really working this time. And so for the regime, it's a question of choice. The sanctions may trigger social unrest. And at that moment, the choice for the regime will be either to negotiate a peaceful diplomatic solution or the risk of facing social unrest. That's not what we want. We want a diplomatic solution. Now, if it doesn't work, at the end of the day, there will be a huge responsibility on the shoulders of President Obama, because we do know for sure that the Israelis won't accept a nuclear Iran. So the question will be, should we let the Israelis, if we can't get a diplomatic solution, should we let the Israelis strike, or is it better to do the job? The US and a coalition of the willing. And my dream would be to see the whole international community joining forces. The US, Russia, China, Europe, if possible, India, Turkey, Brazil, to say to a last time, to tell the Iranian leadership, now, if you don't accept a diplomatic solution, together we will strike. And in my view, this would be easier if we could add to this threat of military strike a proposal to give a boost to the Israeli-Palestinian negotiations.
Yes.
Because you would propose, and this would be an initiative of President Obama, you would propose to the key players at the same time to help maintain peace and nuclear disarmament, at least protect the non-proliferation treaty through the threat and, if need be, real action.
On that Arab-Israeli question, would it be possible for an Obama administration to really push for the OIC, the Organization of Islamic Countries initiative, the Saudi initiative, on full Arab recognition of Israel in return for 67 borders with a few minor adjustments?
Well, but first, you see my point. That is, you have better chance to build a broad coalition of the willing for strikes if at the same time
absolutely.
You have a peace initiative to give a boost with a clear timetable to the Israeli-Palestinian peace process. Now, the Arab initiative of Crown Prince Abdallah at the time, the Beirut initiative, is of course a very useful basis. We have the Clinton parameters. In December 2000,
eminently sensible.
they were there, and for 12 years it was a stalemate. All the efforts have failed. The quartet with Tony Blair have failed. And so is it not a good moment for President Obama at the beginning of his second mandate to give a big push to the Israeli Arab-Palestinian peace process? Because if the Israeli Prime Minister wants the international community to help Israel when they are under imminent threat with the possibility of Iranian nuclear bomb, then maybe we could ask in exchange the Israeli Prime Minister to accept a big push for the peace process, which is, after all, in the interest of both the Israeli and the Palestinian people. So that's my idea.
Now, you have been a very prominent advisor to French presidents. If you were advising President Obama, would you say on the Iranian issue, why not make the grand gesture, a sort of Nixon goes to China? I mean, is that the sort of breakthrough that is conceivable, and is it possible? It could.
Well, you have to remember, first, I'm speaking in my
your personal capacity, absolutely.
And I'm nobody, so, but my answer to your question is this. President Obama has proposed direct negotiations to President Khamenei, the guide, and the leadership of Iran. And so far, it is the Iranian side who has refused to negotiate directly with the Americans. So I guess President Obama will renew his proposal of direct negotiation. Now, a visit of the President of the US in Tehran, wow, that's a dream, but frankly, it must be a great success. Yes. Otherwise, it's a disaster. And if I could envisage this visit, it should be at the end of a process. No doubt that President Obama would be greeted by huge enthusiastic crowds in Tehran and beyond. The problem is for the regime in Tehran, confronted with this enthusiasm.
Indeed.
For the reconciliation with the great Satan.
Yes.
So there is a long way to go. So the problem is less on the American side and much more, it seems to me, on the Iranian side.
A final question. I seem to remember that Jacques Chirac, as president of France, once said, perhaps cynically, I'm not sure, but once said that the world would have to learn to live with an Iranian bomb and would be able to do that. Is that actually possible, or is the threat of proliferation simply so great that it's not going to happen? The world will not accept an Iranian bomb.
I think this will not happen because the Israeli will not let it happen. It's as simple as that. I think that before a bomb is assembled, the Israeli will strike. If they have to do it alone, they will do it alone. And they know that it will not solve the problem, but for them it's an existential question. They say it, and I think it's very important to hear their message. Because remember Osirak? Remember Al-Kibar?
Yes.
In September 2007, nobody knew that there was a nuclear plutonium facility near completion, some place in the desert of Syria. They bombed, and they took the risk of antagonizing the US. But for them, it was existential. And Iran is even more an existential threat because Ahmadinejad, Khamenei, have said that they want to wipe out Israel from the map, and they take it seriously. And they remember what happened during the Second World War. So I think that's number one. Number two, we cannot accept an Iranian bomb because it would set a race of proliferation throughout the Middle East.
The Saudis, the Egyptians, Turkey. Yes.
Turkey, Egypt, and it would be a nightmare scenario.
Jean-David Levitte, thank you so much.
Thank you.